Maybe. This book is about 3 monkeys and they like mangoes, bananas and breaking rules. Monkeys that don't do what they're told and they love mangoes and bananas. It made me feel happy and funny. The book made me laugh and it made me really happy. My favourite monkey is the smartest one because he's very smart, he's fast, and he's bored a bit. I learned that listen to your parents. I think people who like reading books should read it.
The Henna Wars.
Henna Wars is basically about this girl called Nishat. She just recently came out to her parents and they're not as accepting as she thought she would be.
I think my favorite character is Nisha because she doesn't care about what the people think about her. She just is herself.
I learned about more of Desi culture and their cultural wedding and why henna is important to them, and different family dynamics and how it can affect someone.
It widens your perspective on how culture can affect your life in more than one way.
I think the main theme of the book is to just be yourself and to respect others.
It's a really good book. The story is good and it's not really boring at any parts.
I think it kind of shows that parents, even if they don't understand what's going on with their children, they still love them.
Rescuing Titanic.
This book is about the Titanic when it hit the iceberg and the Carpathia helped all the passengers be safe and be rescued.
They said the ship was unsinkable, but it hit an iceberg.
And
And as it was sinking, it split in half.
I enjoyed this book very much, and my favourite character would be the Pomeranian called Lady.
This is my favorite page because it shows all the characters in the book, including the dog. I like dogs.
I didn't know much about Titanic before reading the book. It was very interesting because it was a real book and it wasn't just a fairy tale.
This one where they finally get Land Ahoy.
Shows Morse code alphabet up there.
Yeah, there. And I never knew what Morse code was, and now I'm after learning a new thing, and that was Morse code that I'm after learning.
Made me feel a bunch of emotions. Sad, happy, excited.
Frindle's Wild.
The book is about this girl who wants to save her grandma because Fred and Swaddle took the light from the lamp, which helps her grandma get back home when she's done working in the forest.
I really enjoyed it, and I think Cora was a brave girl, risking her own life for someone she really loved.
The illustrations were absolutely amazing.
It was a good book, and I feel like if other people read it, they might become nicer to everybody else and just put them first instead of themselves.
I will recommend it to a friend who's might feeling a bit upset because it might help them feel loved and a bit warm, even though it's a winter book.
The Summer I Robbed the Bank.
The Summer I Robbed the Bank is about Rex, who lives in Dublin and goes to his uncle's house in Achill, makes new friends, adventures with them, and ends up robbing a bank with his uncle.
I enjoyed the book because it was really funny and they had a lot of fun and they explored a lot.
I liked reading how Rex got out of his comfort zone, and it was really funny as well.
It's very funny and there's lots of adventure and teamwork in it. Overall, it was a very good book and I loved it.
I learned how to rob a bank and that you need a sheep to rob a bank.
I recommend this book because it's funny, it has a lot of adventure in it, and it's just a good book overall.
The Shadows of Rookhaven.
It's a fantasy book and it is the sequel to The Monsters of Rookhaven.
The book is set after World War II and there are monsters and humans and half monsters and humans. They are all coming for the Great Configuration.
I think the main themes of the book are knowing your roots and about your family.
Instead of having chapters, it's from different characters' perspectives. It kind of like has a good, nice world to it.
I'd recommend this book as it is not too hard of a read and it is interesting.
How do you feel when you're reading the book?
I feel happy.
Not my problem.
Basically a girl, she's living with her mum who's an alcoholic, and then her dad left and she's focusing too much on trying to help other people. But it's also like quite funny, it balances out, so it's not like a depressing story. Like it's very balanced out with humour and then sadness.
By the end of the book, like she starts figuring out that like she doesn't like need to fix other people's problems and that she needs to just focus like on her own and like fix herself first. And she finds new friends and like these new friends help her like grow and like make her feel better about herself.
I would recommend it to a friend because if they're like struggling with like coming out or like if they're like trying to like hide stuff but like help everyone else, but they can actually like see like you have to like focus on yourself and like make sure like you're okay.
There's a ghost in this house. It's about a girl and she lives in a house and there's loads of ghosts but she's never found them. There's like see-through pages that you'll flip onto the page you've been reading and then a ghost will appear when you flip that see-through page. So no ghosts in the library and then when you flip it there's one and there. You see this? It's like something and then they're just two eyes here and then they pop out and then it's like a ghost. I enjoyed the book because I got to read it to my little brother and my little brother has Down syndrome and he loves looking at pages that like ghosts pop up even though he's just looking at it.
I really enjoyed the book because it was easy to read and I liked ghosts popping out everywhere and I loved that me and my dad had some fun reading it.
Gut feelings. It's a story about Chris and it's like a coming of age story following him through his chronic illness.
We see him struggle with relationships a bit and kind of come to terms with himself and accept himself for both his illness and his sexuality.
I've read a good few verse novels before, but they tend not to do that much, like with it actually being a verse novel. But I feel like this book, it was really interesting, like the way it was structured or like the fonts he chose or like the graphics or the pictures that he added to the pages. And also just as like pieces of poetry, they were actually really good pieces of poetry and really impactful.
A lot of books have endings which are really like overly happy and stuff like that, but this was more realistic. It wasn't too happy, but it showed him how he accepted himself and everything that makes him who he is.
I thought that it was great that it wasn't romanticized because I can find a lot of the time with certain illnesses in books, it can seem like it's a good thing to have them or, you know, like that it makes your life more interesting, but we definitely saw his struggles a lot more.
I would recommend the book for more mature readers of an age like 16 and above. Definitely older people who'd be able to like handle the topics and themes that are within the book.
Clúsa couple Rí.
The book is an old Irish myth about a king who had horse ears.
And his parents didn't know what the people would think, if they'd accept him or not. So they told him to hide his ears. And he'd have to get his hair cut every year. And they killed the barbers so they wouldn't tell anyone.
When mé tainmh as an scéilse, hí na picturí an Tyrone.
The book is about learning to accept yourself and to embrace like all different things. If you have horse ears or any type of flaw.
The book made me feel happy because I feel like if you're struggling to accept yourself, this is a great book to read to help you accept yourself.